Nice to see you again, K.L.
I know it's been so long.
It's been. Thank you for inviting me into your home.
This is my pleasure. Thank you for.
And we're in Vegas.
Yes.
So explain a little bit about your mentor and your inspiration for the type of work that you do.
Sure.
Because your work is very unique. I don't even know what genre you would put it into, because you know how art always wants to put. Would you say contemporary?
Certainly contemporary. To narrow it down a bit more, I like to call it figurative surrealism. So you'll see a lot of these things, like a lot of dreamlike elements, but you'll see very human elements into like eyes and the human form, which is why it's still figurative.
Oh, I see. So are you a Dali fan?
Yeah, I definitely had that influence ever since high school. Even some of my like high school pieces, as you notice, were certainly influenced by Dali.
Yeah, I went to his museum in St. Petersburg.
Oh, me too. Wasn't it neat?
Blown away.
Yeah.
Are there certain colors you're drawn to?
It's kind of changed over the years. When I was in high school, I really just went in more of the primary colors, since I was still just starting out with paint, transitioning from drawing, because I had always been drawing since I was in elementary school with pencils and pens. So to move into painting and really starting to explore colors, I not really having a grasp on the big spectrum. I was really more doing the primary colors. But over time, I started to kind of expand into more subtle colors that are a lot more true to nature. So you'll actually see a lot more grays, a lot more mauves in my newer pieces.
Okay. So as an artist, you're always changing.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to, because as an artist, your vision should always exceed your skill.
Oh.
So if your vision is not exceeding your skill, you're not really growing and developing as an artist and fulfilling what your potential really is. Oh. So that means you're going to do things that you haven't done before.
Wow. And also, what do you paint or draw on? I see that's like wood.
I'm pretty traditional, so all of my paintings are on canvas, stretched canvas. Okay. My drawings are on paper, and then my photography is just printed on as black and white paper.
Okay, so you only like to do black and white photography right now?
Yeah, I'm gonna make that a statement right now. It's just really been a nice transition from the type of artwork that I do and moving into this new medium, because I've only been doing photography for about a year, a little over a year now, I'd say. So it's just really fit into the rest of my work. Yeah. I'm not going to say that I wouldn't do color photography, but it's just something out of my scope at this time.
It seems like black and white is so artistic. It seems like it blends in well with what you're doing, especially your newer photography. I mean, it's just, I sometimes can't tell if it's a photography or if you drew it. I mean, seriously. And that's why it's so great to see it up close, because now I can see how massively big they really are. And I'm like, well, what's the inspiration for this? Like, how did you see that in a dream? Like,
so these three pieces here were actually done almost at the same time, almost simultaneously.
I remember when you were doing these last year, the year before, on Instagram.
Yeah, I just now have been kind of putting more on my Instagram, but just because my artwork is so personal to me, that it really demands a lot of context. But I'm really started to value sharing it more, and especially meeting people like you, I'm just so compelled to share it more. Yeah. But these three pieces here were made at the same time when I actually became homeless. And in about late 2014, when I was really living the life as the starving artist, just putting everything I had into making artwork and making that my life. And I ended up being homeless, but I had no car, I had no home, but I still had my art. Yeah. So I created these pieces, and these were a true expression of what I was going through physically, mentally, emotionally.
Well, that makes me want to cry when I see some of them now. Now I understand the context of how they were made. I get it now. Yeah. And were you living out of your car?
I was kind of bouncing around between spending a few nights in my car or spending a night with someone I knew, just kind of going here and there. But there was always that feeling that, I mean, unless you're homeless, you don't really get to experience that. You don't know where you're going to sleep that night. You don't know what you're going to eat that day.
Yeah. So you really have that story, I mean, to be great. And because I feel like if you don't struggle sometimes, you can't quite reach what you need, right? I mean, this is like, I saw it, I said, where's that coming from? And now it makes sense. Mm-hmm. It's like you're looking out of the world and saying, you know. So what inspires you? Like, is it a dream? Is it a picture? Is it experiences? Is it people?
It's all of the above.
All of it. It'll really just come at you, and then you're like, I have to paint or draw this out.
Yeah, that, or I'll just kind of be open to an experience, open to inspiration, and then something will come to me, and I immediately have to write it down or immediately put the concept down, and that's where the seed gets planted, and then it just kind of grows from there.
And how long does it take you to produce something like this?
It really varies. Like they're all different. Like this one, the original probably took me maybe 12 hours. But say
what would the original be? The drawing?
Right. This is actually, believe it or not, this is a print. I sold the original last year, but I will probably buy back the original just because it means so much to me. That I just, you know, I you know, there's that struggle within me that, yes, I do need to let some of the art pieces go, but that one in particular means so much to me. But what's a bigger challenge is that I don't do many prints of my art pieces. So typically you'll get an original. But because so many people loved this one, I decided to do a few prints. So now it's like, well, now that I have the print, I can take back the original.
This is a print?
Yes. Yeah.
And so your name is K.L.L Artist.
K.L.L.
K.L.L Artist. And that's what all these signatures are.
Uh-huh.
Just so people know who you are.
Yes.
So you're truly a mix of Mexican and Hawaiian.
Yes.
Very, very people of the earth.
Mm-hmm. That's a good description.
Yeah.
As a viewer, one needs to be brave enough to face those emotions, to face those visions, because these come from within, from all of us.
Yes, yes.
And you just need to be brave and not, you know, it's ultimately not scary. It's life. It's part of life, something that we all must face.
Yeah.
And that one came from a dream that I had a long time ago. And the dream just stuck with me. It just wouldn't leave my mind. So I had to get it onto paper. And that actually, this one took me 12 hours. That one took me about 8 years to finish, from start to finish.
Wow. Wow. It's so deep, K.L.
Well, I'm really happy to have this opportunity to speak about my art pieces, because it does go beyond the aesthetics. It's one thing to kind of see the picture, but once I get to explain it and have that connection, and that's when the real purpose of the artwork comes to life.
I guess that's what I want to say is your artwork is so emotional. Mm-hmm. When I look at it, it's, you know, I'm not saying, you know, flowers aren't emotional. I'm just saying that yours is, it definitely evokes some feeling that we might not want to face sometimes, you know, and that's what this made me. I'm like, it looks almost like me as a little girl. And I was like, what is that about? You know, and you're right. I mean, there's dark and light, and you need both in the world, and you need to acknowledge everything, and you need to face your fears. Mm-hmm. You know, so that's why it makes sense now. But when I first saw it, I was like, I'm a little scared of that one. I have to ask her about it. I don't know how to ask her.
You're not the only person. I get that at every art show, that people think my work is scary, and I accept that, but it takes that willingness to be open to facing it.
Yes, that's why I'm going to have to ask about that. Just get it out of my psyche here. What's this about? And this one scared me too when I first saw it. I was like, what's that about? You know, and that one also scared me a little bit, because I was thinking of a scary movie at the time. But I after I looked at it, I realized it's kind of like someone trying to get something out to the world. And that's where you're trying to get something out to the world.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you're saying, I'm homeless, right there. It's beautiful.
No, I'm really happy that I've had this opportunity to share my artwork. K.L.L
Yes.
is where all of my art pieces are. I have been working, I know you've talked to a lot of writers, I've been working on a book to put together with my most favorite art pieces, and because they need explanation sometimes, I started writing about them. So I'm going to be putting together a book which will be out by the end of this year.
Whoa. Well, you might have to come back and talk to me again then. Right when you release your book, I'll help you release that. Also, what type of art fairs do you go to? Where would people find you if they wanted to see you?
Just check back on my social media. The Instagram is where I post the most. You can also sign up for my once a month newsletter through my website. I put out a once a month newsletter with what past shows I've done, what upcoming shows I'll be doing. It'll be mostly around this region of the country, so California, Nevada, Colorado, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the whole Southwest area.
Pretty much, yes.
And that fits into your culture too, how you express yourself.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah. And so do you feel that your Hawaiian and Mexican mix really helps you to understand the world a little better in a different way, that you can create your art?
I'd like to think so. I can't say that I've attributed my artwork directly to my culture, but I know other people have.
Mm-hmm.
So they're certainly seeing something that I'm not, perhaps because I've just been living it my whole life.
Yes. Because the one with the roses really reminds me of Mexican art, in terms of the Day of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it is like with skeletons, and unless you learn about the Day of the Dead, again, you're wondering why are you making skeletons?
Right.
And I mean, because you do have that going on, right? And also you are worshiping your grandmother, which is also the Day of the Dead. So do you see how we can connect that a little bit now that we know what your background is?
Right, yeah. If someone explains it to me, then it's like, oh yeah, I guess that's true. But again, because I've just, that's how my life has been, I don't really see it as like a culture. That's just a way of life.
Yes, because you're immersed in it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of times what happens with artists is as they get into their art, they start to realize, oh, this is where it comes from. And then you start to honor your heritage. And that's how I see you a lot of times. You're honoring something. If I didn't know enough about you, what you were honoring, now I know. So do you have any type of Hawaiian type of paintings that you do? Are you starting that now with flowers? Because Hawaii, when I think of Hawaii, I think of the flowers.
Yeah.
And that might be not a good thing, but that's just what I see. I see tropical.
Yeah, I would say there are some pieces in the works that are at the conception stage, but they're on the way. They just need to find a right transition with the rest of my pieces.
Okay. And so you live in Vegas,
right?
And you've been here for a while, and so it seems like the art community here is really huge because everything on the Strip is full of artistic things everywhere.
That's true. Yeah.
Do you feel that this place is really inspirational for you?
There's certainly a lot of potential here, as opposed to me living in some place like LA or New York, where I'd be a really, small fish in a pond. But here, Las Vegas really embraces the art community. There's a lot of potential here. You can be have your own niche and really find a place here.
Yeah. And also it helps have a mentor, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And talk a little more about your mentor.
My mentor has been a big help to me. He's very he really sees the potential that I didn't. I mean, essentially he truly believes in me, which for an artist is really big. And he's helped me with getting into the art fair circuit, understanding how the process of becoming an artist and turning it into an art business really works, and he has that experience.